Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki, Shri Guru Parampara ki, His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Sri Gaur-Nitai ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Brihad Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution ki, Transcendental Prasad Distribution ki, Shri Bhakti ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada, all to Shri Padai, to Shri Krishnaya, to Shri Gauravani Pacharni Nirvashesha Shunyavali Paschacharis. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So this evening we shall read from 3 verses in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā as this. This chapter is entitled Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. And these 3 verses are a very nice presentation of the essential points of Krishna conscious philosophy. So we'll begin with the first verse, text 28, and read on to 29 and 30, and the purports. Purports are not long. So please repeat text 28. Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameshwaram Vinasyatsu Avinasyantam Ya Pashyati Sa Pashyati. Now word for word. Please repeat. Samam, equally. Sarveshu, in all. Bhuteshu, living entities. Tishtantam, residing. Parama Ishwaram, the super soul. Vinashyatsu, in the destructible. Avinashyantam, not destroyed. Yaha, anyone who. Pashyati, sees. Saha, he. Pashyati, actually sees. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Purport. Anyone who by good association can see 3 things combined together: the body, the proprietor of the body or individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, is actually in knowledge. Unless one has the association of a real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these 3 things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant. They simply see the body, and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually it is not so. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the super soul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word Parameshwara is sometimes translated as the individual soul, because the soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is the master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the super soul. In either case, both the super soul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. And the next verse, Samam Pashyan hi sarvatra Sama Vashtitam Ishwaram Nahi Nasti Atmanatmanam Tato Yati Param Gatim. Translation. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Purport. The living entity, by accepting his material existence, has become situated differently than in his spiritual existence. But if one understands that the Supreme is situated in his Paramatma manifestation everywhere, that is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense-gratifying processes, but when the mind turns to the super soul, one becomes advanced in spiritual understanding. And finally, text 13. Prakrityaiva chukarmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yapashyati tatatmanam akartaram sapashyati. Translation. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Report. The body is made by material nature under the direction of the super soul. And whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given a body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. So, in these three verses, text 28, 29, and 30, there is a word which is repeated, and that word is pashyati. Pashyati, or in 29, pashyan, another form of the same word. Pashyati, pashyan means to see. So Lord Krishna is talking here about spiritual vision. He is explaining in very precise terms what it means to see with spiritual eyes. When people speak of spiritual vision, then they may imagine so many things. There is a group known as the spiritualists. They're supposed to have spiritual vision, but all they see are ghosts. So this is not the standard of spiritual vision that is being presented here in Bhagavad-gītā, to see ghosts, disembodied minds floating around, haunting us. Of course, that is, we would say, extraordinary vision. Not everyone can see these ghostly beings. But that is not spiritual vision. So spiritual vision means to see that within every body, not just human body, but every body, human being or superhuman being, like the demigods, or animal, or insect, or plant, or fish, or whatever it is, down to the microbes, bacteria, that within every living being there is an eternal soul which is dwelling in that body for some period of time until the death of the body. And along with that eternal individual soul is the Parameshvara, or Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul. Now, what is it? The relationship between the two? Yes, Parama Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. So the Paramatma, the Super Soul, is the actual controller. As Srila Prabhupada, we just heard him explain, that he, the Super Soul, has assembled this body for us out of material elements. Just like when a mother or a woman becomes a mother, or a mother-to-be, she's impregnated, then within her womb, a body develops. Now, how does that happen? You can ask the woman, how are you doing that? How are you putting this intricate human body together in your womb? And she will say, I don't know. Because she is not the Ishvara, she is not the controller. She is not assembling that body. Of course, ingredients are being taken from her body by a superior power, a superior intelligent power. Is extracting ingredients from the woman's body and assembling the new human body, the fetus within the soul. And then when that person is born, then just like now here we are existing in this body. Now there we know there are so many intricate functions going on at every moment in this body. The lungs are inhaling air, exhaling the used air, and that oxygen, which is extracted by the lungs by very, very intricate process, is combined with the blood, and the heart circulates this oxygenated blood through all the tissues, and the tissues absorb the oxygen and the food in the blood, and food is being digested in the belly by so many complex chemical reactions, and the synapses in the nervous system and brain are sparking at every moment with electrical charges. So many things are going on. So many things which modern science, for all of its investigation, has in large part failed to comprehend. Although scientists now, they can talk, they can present, yes, many books, many lectures on what is happening in the human body, but they admit that our knowledge of the totality of all these bodily functions is very, very slight, very small. So all these things are going on at every moment in this body, and we're not even thinking of them. You see? Just imagine, just like we like to claim when we're in illusion, when we're in Maya, that this is my body. I can do with this body as I like. So just imagine if suddenly you are made completely responsible for the body. Oh, it's your body? All right. Now you take charge of everything. You digest your foods. And we would be helpless. You control the beating of your heart. You make sure that the heart makes the next beat. So you would just be meditating on your heart. Beat, 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 beat. And then what about the rest of the functions? You'd be too busy telling your heart to beat. So just imagine. No, we are not. We are not the controller of this body. There is a higher power. Day and night, whether we're conscious or unconscious, awake or asleep, spacing out, daydreaming, or whatever we're doing, there is an ever-present superior intellect which is maintaining all the functions of this body, and that's Paramatma. Lord Krishna says in 15th chapter, Savasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto, I am situated in the heart of all living beings, Matak Smritim Jnana Pohanam Cha, and from me is coming knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. This is another point. Even our knowledge, what we know, is kept in store for us by the Paramatma. Because sometimes we forget. You see? It's like sometimes you meet a person that you haven't seen for a while, but you know that person very well. but because there's been some separation of time, you just can't remember his name. And it's very embarrassing, because the person comes up, shakes your hand, hello, and is addressing you, and you're trying, what is his name? What is his name? And it doesn't come. You see? This is because our knowledge is in a superior bank of knowledge, which is Paramatma, the Super Soul, all-pervading Super Soul. And Krishna says, Jnanam, Gyam, Gyanagamyam. He says, I am knowledge, I am the object of knowledge, I am the source of knowledge. Knowledge is all under the command of Paramatma. So our knowledge, our remembrance, our forgetfulness, this is also controlled by Paramatma. So both in the gross sense, in the sense of our gross physical functions and our subtle mental functions, because we have two bodies, a gross body and a subtle body. The Paramatma is the control, Parameshwar. And what are we doing? As probably you heard Srila Prabhupada explain, we are simply desiring. We have our desires. Just like I desire now to lift this plastic cup of water and take a drink from it. So that is my desire. Now, fortunately for me, Paramatma is agreeing that I can fulfill this desire. Therefore my hand is moving. I don't know how my arm is moving, picking this up. I don't know how it's happening. Somehow it's happened. I want it to happen, and here it goes. I can drink and I can swallow it. But this is actually all under superior control, as is stated here. All these activities, Prakriti, Kriyamanani, Prakrityayava cha karmani, Kriyamanani sarvashaha. All these activities are functions of this yantra, this machine of the material body. And that yantra is being controlled by the Paramatma. And I'm thinking in illusion that I'm the doer. I'm thinking I am the body, first of all. This is the first illusion, the first ignorance, that I actually think I am the body. And then I think I'm the doer of my activities. But I am not the body, and I'm also not the doer. I am simply the observer. I'm sitting within this body, I am observing what's happening around me. And why is it happening? It is happening according to karma. According to previous activities, now certain actions are taking place in the present. So I'm just riding along in this machine of material nature. And I'm desiring. And sometimes, again, according to karma, sometimes my desire is fulfilled in just the way I like. Sometimes it's fulfilled in a way that I don't like so much, so. And sometimes it's not fulfilled. Sometimes I'm just frustrated. I want to become a big movie star. I want to become world famous. Replace Michael Jackson, who needs replacing now. But my karma doesn't allow it. No. I'm not supposed to become famous, world famous in this lifetime. So what can I do? I can just daydream. So, this, Lord Krishna says, Pashyati. This is seeing with the eyes of knowledge. And what is the result? Now this is very nice. There's another verse, famous verse in Bhagavad-gītā, where Lord Krishna declares that one who has this spiritual vision was able to see soul and super soul in all living beings. Brahmane Gavi Hashtani, he mentions. Brahmane means in the heart of a Brahman. Brahmana means a saintly person. Or Gavi, a cow. Or Hastani, or an elephant. Or a dog, even a lowly creature, like a dog, or even a dog eater. Dog eaters among human beings, those who eat dogs, are considered to be very low class. Like in some countries, like Korea, in the marketplace, you'll see dogs hanging from hooks and snakes in jars at the supermarket. So people who have taste to eat dogs and snakes and French fried grasshoppers and things like that, they're considered low class. But that is according to material estimation. Pandita Sama Darshana, Lord Krishna says, one who's a pandit, one who's actually learned, one who actually is wise, he sees all, Brahmana, cow, elephant, dog eater, as being sama, on the actual same spiritual platform. Pandita Sama Darshana, he sees that way. That they're actually the same spiritually. Because despite the difference of material form and material status, they're soul, they're eternal soul. And Paramatma is with them, guiding them in whatever situation they may be in. So in the first line of this verse, that famous verse that I mentioned, Lord Krishna says something very, very significant. That Vidya Vinaya Sampani. This is the first line. Vidya. One who has, Vidya means knowledge. So one who has this vision, he has vidya. He has real knowledge. And vinaya. Vinaya means culture. It means proper human culture or gentle behavior. Proper behavior. Sampani. Sampani means equipped with. So one who has this vision, this spiritual vision, then he is equipped with real knowledge, and he is actually a gentleman or a gentle lady, a gentle person. He's actually worthy of the name human being. And those who do not, obviously, those who do not have this vision, then they're classified otherwise. So the essence of this spiritual vision, Lord Krishna says in the 16th chapter, is Adroho Nati Manita Bhavam Sampatam Gainim. Very nice point. You can come, all these things we've said so far about the spiritual vision can be condensed into this simple statement. That one who has this vision of the soul, he is Adroho, he's not envious of anyone else. He has no reason to be envious, to hate, or to fear anybody. And he is Nati Manita. He does not need anyone's respect either, conversely. He is not hankering to become important, to become honored by others, to become worshipped by them, respected, put in a high position. So in other words, he put it another way, he has no interest to push anybody else down, to make them lower than himself, nor does he have any interest to make himself higher than others. Because Samadarshana, he's actually seeing everyone as the same, as spirit soul. So, Lord Krishna says, one who has this vision, Bhavam Sampadam, he is endowed by the divine quality. Again, this is the same point. Vidya Vinaya Sampani, endowed by knowledge and endowed by good behavior. So another way is Daivi Sampat, another way of putting this. Daivi Sampat means endowed by divinity. He is a holy person, in other words. He is a saintly person, a godly person. But if one does not have this vision, if one sees only matter, only the external material covering, sees in terms of body, then that is called Asurasampat. He's endowed with the demoniac quality. And what is that? Lord Krishna says that such demons who see only the body, yes, Dambo, Darpo, Abhiman, they're very proud, very puffed up. Damba, Darpo, and arrogant. And abhimana, completely absorbed in the conception of I am this body. And thus, how do they deal with others? If this is their mentality, to be very proud, arrogant, and very much absorbed in the body, thinking with others. Lord Krishna says, Krodha Paurushamcha. They're very angry and harsh with others. They push others around and rebuke them and chastise them. And this is all symptom of what? Krishna says ajnana, foolishness. They are fools. They're in ignorance. They have no knowledge. So this is the Asurasampat. These are the qualities of the demons, and to call a spade, as they say, or to speak honestly, we must say that that is the quality of modern society. If you look at so-called human culture today, or look in the newspapers, look in the news magazines, you'll simply see page after page horrible reports of these demoniac dealings, demoniac culture that is predominant in human society today. Today I was, Mani Doctor who brought me a newspaper, so I was looking at it, and there were news reports about how, because men, you see, this is the bodily conception. A man is thinking that a woman, first of all, he's thinking, I am the body, I'm just this male body. And he looks at women as being objects of his pleasure. So that he deals with women in that way, as sex objects, and abuses them. So there's so many cases of husbands beating their wives and rape and all these kinds of things. This is the so-called loving exchange that's going on. And then there was a big news story I saw. The big news story in America is how, because one wife was so misused by her husband while he was sleeping, she cut off his private part. And now the women, the feminists in America, they're so encouraged by this. So when they greet each other now, the feminists, they used to greet each other like this, you see, but now they greet each other like this. So this is our human society today. You see, this is the platform. This is where people's minds are. Lord Krishna says, one who sees the soul and super soul does not degrade himself by his mind, but just see the mentality of these people. So degraded, so nasty, so low, because they're fully absorbed in the body. And then there's so many stories of adult men and women abusing children, sexually abusing little children. And now in response, children are killing adults. There was also a news report in Miami, one 13-year-old girl, she took a taxi cab somewhere, the fare cost $6. So rather than pay $6, she pulled out a gun and shot the taxi driver dead. And then she was caught by the police, and the police were thinking, well, little girl, 13 years old, they were trying to talk to her about her crime, and she didn't care. Yeah, I killed that guy, so what? And the policeman came away from interviewing, he said, it's frightening, it's simply frightening. This little girl, and I say, you killed this man. She says, so what? I don't care. Don't you think it was wrong? No, it was wrong. He wanted me to pay $6. Better I shoot him in bed. So, yes, these are the interpersonal relationships. Going straight to hell. And all the while, every day, millions and millions of people all over the world, they're feasting on the dead bodies of poor, slaughtered, innocent animals. And this is why they're behaving like mad dogs themselves. This is why human being is on that platform. because they see other creatures just as being objects of their own sense pleasure. My tongue demands, eat, so I will kill my fellow creature and cut off his flesh, and cook it, devour it. So because of this, the human being is no better than a mad dog now. And that reminds me of another story. In the city of Bristol in England, there was a dog catcher. He was driving through the neighborhood in his truck, and he saw one dog running without the collar, without the license. So as the dog catcher is supposed to do, he got down from his truck, and with his big net, he caught the dog. Then suddenly, 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, they came running up to him. "Don't take our dog!" And he said, "But your dog has no license." "No!" And they jumped on the dog catcher. One of them took the dog away, took the dog back, and the others jumped on the dog catcher and threw him down on the ground, and they began to bite him. They bit him in the neck and the arms and the legs, and he was bleeding. Then the newspapers were reporting, the headlines were, "Dog catcher attacked by wild human beings." And this is a true story, true news story. So human beings have become like mad dogs. So the world is in a very precarious position. This human culture. As I was saying the other day, music, send me to hell music. And the entertainment, when people want to be entertained, you see, to relax, what do? They go to see some film which is just full of sex and violence. You see, this is what they have to see in order to feel relaxed. Sex and violence for an hour and a half, and then they come out, "Oh yes, I saw a very good film today. Now let's go to McDonald's and have a hamburger." So because of this, the world is in a very dangerous situation, and the danger is increasing and increasing. So Lord Krishna in verse 29, he gives the simple solution. The one who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. But unfortunately, instead of being trained to see the soul and super soul within the human being, within each other, people today are being trained to see an ape, a monkey within. That is a fact. Because they learn in school this doctrine of evolution, that we are all descent from some gorilla ancestor. So this is how they think. We don't have God within us, we have some beast within us. You see? This is how people have been trained. This is a fact. This is factual. They have been trained in the schools for a few generations now. For at least 100 years. That what you have inside of you is some kind of, Neanderthal beast. Some kind of monster who wants to come out. And now they think, yes, let's let it out. So this is what we're hearing of, is of a different kind of training. And one has to be trained in spiritual vision. Because this training that people are getting today, this so-called education, materialistic education, it is leading people on the path to hell, as we know from the Vedic scriptures, that human being is going to become cannibalistic in the not so far future. It's already starting. Just like the sexual morals. 100 years ago, illicit sex was something, sex between unmarried man and woman was considered to be very scandalous. But in time, it has become completely acceptable, completely normal. Nobody thinks anything about it. Completely normal. So now, cannibalism, this is something that's outrageous. But some people are doing it. There is a certain section of society right now. I was reading a book about satanic cults, which are becoming more and more prominent, especially as it goes hand in hand with drugs. The drug culture is spreading all over the world. So more and more people are taking dangerous drugs. And it's becoming the habit. So following this spread of drugs comes this demoniac music, satanic music, you know, these heavy metal groups with these secret messages, worship Satan and so on, in the records. And people are taking these drugs and listening to this music and so on. They're developing more and more of an interest in black rituals. First it starts with animal sacrifices, but then you see they read in some text somewhere that it's much more powerful if you can make a human sacrifice. And so there are such groups doing that now. And they're associated, I was reading in this book, they're associated with the drug dealers. In South America, where there are these big drug dealing cartels, these families, which have become super rich by selling cocaine and so on. In South America, there are such religions as Santiera and Palo Mayombe, they're called, which do blood sacrifice. And the best sacrifice is a human being. And so these very rich drug dealers, they can actually afford to get a witch doctor who will do human sacrifices, and they can afford to buy human beings who will be sacrificed. And so the witch doctor, the voodoo magician, he does a whole ritual, cuts up these people, and then afterwards everyone is drinking the blood and eating the flesh for power, you see, to perform sinful activities. Now this is actually, yes, it is a form of black religion, which is also seen in India, this Vama Marga Tantra, left-hand Tantra. They do things like this. Of course, completely in darkness, completely in ignorance. But persons who worship Lord Shiva, horrible forms of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga, they will also, Prabhupada mentions in his purports that, for instance, there's a form of Lord Shiva called Bhairava, Kala Bhairava. And human sacrifices are offered to him. So in the West, there is such Satan worship going on now, where human sacrifices are being offered. There's a big movement in America called the 4-Pi movement. I mean big in that it's quite widespread. The police know that it exists, but they have not been able to catch them really yet. They've caught a few members, but not there's some top figure in this movement who is called the Grand Chingon. This is his title. And he's directing all over America human sacrifices. And this is known by the police agencies. They know this is going. This has been exposed. Sometimes these persons who are considered to be just random killers, serial killers who just go around killing people, they're found out later on to have actually been a member of such an organization, and they were actually being told to kill. So anyway, these things are going on now, but they're considered, my point is, they're considered very outrageous. You see, this is, if anyone hears this, they become very shocked. But just think, 100 years ago, if it was reported that this man had sex with this woman to whom he was not married, that was also scandalous. But now it's completely acceptable. So we need not be surprised if in 100 years cannibalism is completely acceptable. And there will be some scientific explanation why cannibalism is good. It helps control the human population. After all, there are too many human beings anyway. And the food supply is very short. So why not? There's so many extra people, we don't need them all, so they can be killed and we can eat them. And we can imagine it'll come to the point where there'll be human body parts in the supermarket. You see, packaged. And this is predicted in the Vedic scriptures, that such things will happen. Human beings will come to so degraded that they'll be cannibals. So, and what is the cause of such degradation? That is very nicely explained here by failure to see, pashyati, failure to see reality, spiritual reality. Instead, people, actually we see today, again on this point, people are just like, they're being trained up just like cows for slaughter. People are now being trained up to become just like a herd of animals, ready to accept anything. There's a term for medical science, lobotomy. They destroy the frontal lobes of the brain and make a person into a kind of vegetable who can be easily controlled. And they do this in mental hospitals when there are persons who are too wild. They give them a lobotomy, and then they're just very peaceful after that. So people are being conditioned in the same way. By what? By sense gratification. There are demons in control of human society today who are propagating en masse sense gratification in the radio, television, newspaper, all the media. It's bombarding everyone with advertisements for products to gratify the senses, with tips on how to gratify your senses, how to have nice sex, how to get high, how to do this, do that, enjoy. So, and people are swept away by this. Right? Human being has become completely sold out in the modern times to this, and this has become like a zombie. Helpless. So, in Bhagavad-gītā, Lord Krishna says, Purusha prakriti stohi bhunte prakriti jaguna karanam guna sangasya sarasat joni janmasu. That when the soul, Purusha, who is situated in material nature, situated in this body, Purusha prakriti stohi bhunte prakriti jaguna, when he develops this strong desire to enjoy material nature, to enjoy sense gratification, then karanam guna sangasya, then he's carried away by matter, by the material world. He's helplessly carried away, as we were explaining, just like animals being led to the slaughter. They're helpless. They're just forced to stand in a line, one after the other. The animal at the front is being killed, and right behind him, in sight of that, right in front of their eyes, the animal right in front of them is being killed, but the two animals behind are having sex. Because they cannot control their senses. They have no brain anymore. And then they're pulled apart from one another, and one is killed and the other is killed, one after the other. This is animal consciousness. So human beings are becoming like that because they're being bombarded by the sense gratification. They're addicted to sensual pleasure. They cannot control their senses anymore. They're being told that you want to gratify your senses, then you have to live within the society. Don't ask too many questions about the way things are going, because this is the only way you'll be able to enjoy, by accepting the way we're doing things now. And so people blindly accept, yes, as long as I can get my paycheck, as long as I can come home to my television, as long as I can get some sex life, as long as I can eat McDonald's hamburger, then everything's all right. So they're being prepared for slaughter. So this is a very lamentable condition. So actually, This human form of life is meant for becoming Goswami. Goswami means master of the senses. And to become master of the senses means to have this vision, to see that I am not the body. I am riding within the body, but I am not the body. So then, what to do with our desires? Yes. Our desires are to be engaged in the satisfaction